Well, here we are. We're down to 2 teams left fighting for the Super Bowl. What players have fought for and worked for their whole life, through middle school, through high school, to get to this moment, and now to be in the league and fight and practice and work so hard to get to this point. They're only 1 game away from achieving their dream and winning the Super Bowl. But there was 2 championship games last night that we are here to recap. Even though there was only 2 games, there was no shortness of action, so Austin and I will make sure to cover it all. This is K&A Football. So once upon a time, Austin and I were recording a podcast last Monday. And I opened up the podcast and I said, all right, Austin. And Austin got very upset. He had a little talk with me about not starting the episode saying, all right, Austin, how it's boring and gets old and we got to switch it up. So, what's up, Austin?
Not much.
Well, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. I see that despite your best efforts, you still used the word all right in your opening.
I did not open it with all right, Austin. So you cannot bicker about that. I opened it perfectly fine.
I could still bicker about that. I mean, you just, instead of using the word all right, you said once upon a time, all right. You just tossed a couple words in front of it and then called it good. Minimal effort right there.
You're never going to be satisfied.
No, I'm never going to be satisfied until you come up with some incredible creative opening.
Dude, I thought that was perfectly fine. You know, I'm not calling that insanely creative, but it's better than just all right, Austin, which is what you were complaining about.
Yeah, it is better. Which
I sacrificed my school for you because
in the 4 seconds it took you to think of that.
No, I was sitting in math today, and I was really bored, like always in math, and so I was just sitting there, and I was like, I'm not going to think about math because that's not what I do. So I zoned out and thought, okay, I got to open an episode in another way this week. And that's what came to my mind in a few seconds. Sorry, I'll be more creative next week. It's going to be an every week thing.
I'm looking forward to it.
Before we do get into our into the episode, this episode is made possible by K&F Construction and Prince Floors.
Good work, Kadin. Debbie might get mad at me for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyways because I have the microphone and the worst he can do is mute me. So we have not a script to follow because this is all like free-form discussion.
Yeah.
But we have things that...
It's notes.
Right, it's notes for us to mention at some point in the podcast. And Debbie was very adamant that we list that first, that went absolutely first.
Yeah, out of the corner of my eye, I just see a bunch of... I don't even know what key that is on the computer, but it was distracting.
Just like the little arrow that like points up is great.
And now Debbie's mad and saying...
I know. It's,
hurry it up.
Yeah, man.
Debbie's not mad that I said that.
You can't win, Debbie.
It's all right.
We win.
We should probably start the podcast before Debbie kicks us out of
it. Probably.
So, let's get into the recap.
The K&A Week Recap.
Okay. Here we go. So the first game of the week, the NFC Championship between the Eagles and the 49ers. Number 1 offense versus number 1 defense.
Yeah.
Should be a I don't know, entertaining game nonetheless. Yeah. The final score, 31-7 Eagles. Looks like a blowout.
Yeah.
And you're like, wow, this game was lame. Well, it was lame, but it was also like, it was one of the weirder but more interesting and fun. It was something.
Oh, it was definitely something. So, I'm going to take you guys through the story of the game in case you didn't see it. I'll walk you through it like it's story time, okay? So, the game kicks off, and tempers are already flaring. Even before kickoff, like there were already fights, during the warm-ups. Tensions were already high, which is like good in my opinion, right?
That's way more fun.
It's 100%. Way more fun.
Yeah.
Right, you got that storyline heading into the game, and it makes you feel like, neither team is like confident that they're going to win, right? They're already getting into it. And its emotions are high. This is the last game before the Super Bowl. And like you mentioned, players work their entire lives to get to the Super Bowl. Sometimes they won't even win one in their career. Like, you got notable players in the NFL. J.J. Watt never won a ring.
Yeah, many like Hall of Famers.
Dan Marino. Like, they're big
Calvin
players.
Johnson. You could name hundreds.
Because it's
players.
more likely that you don't win one than you do. And so, like, to be at this level, to be right there is like such a big deal. You get into the game, the Eagles march down, they score. Obviously, I'm sure that all of you guys have seen that right at the beginning there, the Eagles had a 4th and 3. And gutsy call, they decide to go for it. And they throw the ball down the field for a 29-yard completion to, I had the wrong name. Who is
Devontae
it to?
Smith.
Devontae Smith.
Yeah.
I had Miles Sanders. That's what it was. 29-yard completion to Miles Sanders. Or so we all thought. So then the Eagles run up to the line. They run another play 20 seconds after the completion. And that was the end of that. And we're like, okay. And then they get into the end zone and they score first. Right? And, we all thought that, like, okay, they scored. They go to commercial after the score, and they come back and they're like, oh, hey, by the way, he never caught that ball. That very clearly touched the ground.
Yeah.
Once you see it in replay.
I mean, yeah, but that's a very common play in football where it's a tough play like that, and it's like, oh, we don't know if he caught this. Let's hurry up and get a play so before they can challenge. You see that every week in games, and
Yeah.
that's very. Kyle Shanahan is a great coach, and that's really surprising of a coach of his caliber to not be like, hold on, let's call timeout, or hey, we should look at this or challenge it. Normally, you don't see Shanahan or anyone of that high level of coaching making a mistake like that. Like, when they're rushing to the line like that, oh crap, we should probably check this out before they do anything. There's a very good chance he dropped this, and it was a pivotal point at that part in the game, which obviously they ended up leading to a touchdown. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I don't fault him necessarily, right? Because it's like, why? Like, there's no reason to believe he didn't catch it other than them jumping up and running to the line. But like, why? Out of like abundance of caution, why wouldn't you throw the challenge flag on that, right? Because worst case scenario is you lose your challenge for the rest of the game, and this is like a big turning point. Why wouldn't you throw the flag? Let them review it, and if he didn't catch it, now you get the ball, 29 yards behind where they were. You get it basically at midfield.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so then the Eagles had scored, and so the Niners get the ball. Obviously, Brock Purdy, the last pick in the draft, comes out. He's 7-0 as a starter, 8-0 if you count the Dolphins game. He comes out, first drive. He gets hit as he threw, strip sack. It was a great play by Hassan Reddick.
It was.
He had an incredible game.
Yeah.
Purdy, the ball comes out as he throws, and Purdy goes down. The Eagles end up picking up the fumble, so now they're inside the 50 already. And Purdy, he's holding his elbow and his arm, and he's looking in pain. And everyone's like, oh no. The 49ers, they got Trey Lance, week 2, out for the year. Jimmy Garoppolo steps in, and he does whatever, and now he's hurt for probably the rest of the year. Then they bring in Brock Purdy, and he looks like the guy. Now he gets hurt. So in comes Josh Johnson. Yes, I had to look at the notes to say his name because I don't know who he is. Apparently, he's been in the league for 15 years.
Didn't know.
And he's been on 14 different teams. Almost half of the league he has been on. He's been on the 49ers 3 separate times. That's so funny to me. But here comes this guy who's never played in a meaningful game, probably in his career. Literally, his name is Josh Johnson. Nobody knows this guy.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, going into the year, you're like, okay, I'm a practice squad guy. I am the 4th string quarterback. You're obviously not going to play. If you would have told him back in like training camp that you're going to be playing in the NFC Championship game,
he probably would have thought, okay, so that championship game is like the blowout of blowouts, right? We're up by 47 and you didn't want to put in the other 2 guys that are ahead of me.
And yet exactly. Like, it's not even like, if it's a blowout, you normally would think, oh, let's put in our 2nd string. Oh, let's put in our 3rd string. If that wouldn't even make sense. No, you're the 4th string and you come in, which is crazy.
But I think that one of the questions that we all had after Jimmy Garoppolo went down and Brock Purdy comes in is, number 1, who on earth is behind Purdy? And number 2, how many...
You did say that.
I did
you
say
said that on a podcast episode. I remember
said,
that.
Who is behind Purdy? And like, what happens if he gets hurt? Is there a guy behind him? And is there a guy behind the guy behind Purdy? Because like, how many quarterbacks do the 49ers have in their pocket that they can just keep pulling them out and be like, yeah, this guy still works in our system, and so does this guy, and so does this guy. Turns out it's only 1. Turns out they only have 4 quarterbacks on the roster. Because the reason we know this is because then Josh Johnson gets hurt. Okay?
Shocker. Literally, they are the most crazy injury-prone quarterback team ever. How do you get 4 quarterbacks hurt in one season? It is beyond
literally impossible.
Is beyond me. I don't understand it.
Yeah, so he suffers a concussion. He's out for the game. And so, then Fox is cutting to the sideline showing Christian McCaffrey looking at the quarterback play sheet. Okay, yeah. He's literally on the sideline talking with the quarterback's coach, looking at the quarterback play sheet. Because if you remember, he throws a couple passes.
Yeah,
every year he throws probably 5 or 6 passes on like trick plays.
How hard can it be? Any quarterback can succeed in that system.
Or so we thought.
Yeah, right.
Josh Johnson did not succeed in this system, but it was a high stakes game. Turns out that Christian McCaffrey did not play quarterback. As entertaining as that would have been, I really would have loved that.
I was really hoping for it, man.
The guy's only been with the 49ers for a couple of months. Really, it's not like he's been with them for years. Like, he's only been here a couple of months. Like, he was only traded mid-season. Turns out he didn't play, which would have been, awesome. Instead, Brock Purdy comes back in, okay? And I don't know if you saw the interview where Brock Purdy's telling the reporters what he said to Kyle Shanahan. So Shanahan asked him, are you good? Can you throw the ball? And Purdy had an MRI today to look at his elbow, and the results aren't in yet. But basically, what they're speculating happened is that he hyperextended his elbow and then lost all feeling in his hand to where he couldn't grip a football. But it slowly returns.
Yeah.
And so Shanahan asked him, he said, can you throw the ball? And Brock Purdy said to him, I don't think I can throw it deep. So would it be okay if we had to pass it? Could we just please throw it short? Which is just the saddest thing ever. Like, that's so humble of a guy who is 8-0 playing in the NFL to just be like, hey, coach, could we please just run a short play? And turns out Brock Purdy didn't end up throwing the rest of the game. The 49ers, in the entire game, only attempted 18 passes. The rest of the game was just handing the ball off because that's all they could do.
Yeah.
Purdy couldn't throw.
And when they know that they can't throw, you're easily able to key in on that run. They had all their runs in the game. They, like you said, they barely passed because they had no one that could pass. So they ran pretty much the entire game, only had 81 rushing yards.
Yeah. Because obviously if you know they're not going to throw, load up the box. Stack the box.
There's no threat because you know that Purdy, he threw one pass once he came back in, and it was like a 2-yard screen pass. And he lofted that thing like it was a basketball. So obviously you have no threat of passing. Just load the box, and it clearly worked out for the Eagles.
Very clearly. Christian McCaffrey was literally the entire team in the second
He's used
half.
to that. If there's one guy that you want in that situation to have to carry a team, it is Christian McCaffrey.
He did that in Carolina for years.
Yes. But probably one of the most action-packed things of this game. When the game was already over. It was already 31-7. Time was ticking down. There was 2 minutes left in the game. And things are getting chippy every play. Like, you're taking random, like, late hits. Like, things are getting ugly. It's like, okay, Niners know they lost. They're upset. They didn't have their quarterback. They feel like it's unfair. And they go, there's a play, and then all of a sudden you see an Eagles guy and a Niners guy. Like, they're full on. They throw themselves to the ground, and they're, like, going at it. And at the top of the screen, there's another brawl. And on the other side of the screen, there's a whole nother brawl. So you got 3 separate brawls going on between players. And all of a sudden, they all like combine into one big fight. And then you see Trent Williams, the left tackle for the 49ers, like 350 plus pound O-lineman, grab an Eagles guy by around like the back of the collar. Yeah, and completely just like body slam him to the ground. So whip him around and just slam him.
Yeah.
And obviously that causes just everything to break loose. The benches, the 49ers bench clears, which doesn't make sense because he's the one that fought.
Yeah.
The Eagles guy stands back up and punches him. Obviously they both got ejected. Everyone's going nuts. The refs are screaming. Like, I've never heard refs like this on the mic. They're like, everyone to the sidelines, everyone to the sidelines. And they repeat this like 7 times. And then, players were ejected. Obviously, Eagles players stayed more to their side because they have the Super Bowl now to get ready for. They can't risk getting suspended for that. But yeah, it was kind of entertaining. It's not good to see. It's not a good look for the NFL, but it's pretty fun to see for a fan, I will say.
Yeah, definitely very fun. See anything else about this game that is notable?
There was a punt
There was a punt. I was just gonna get there.
Early in the game, the Eagles punted the ball, and there was like a whole 10-minute delay because they did it hit something in the air? Did it because the punt only went a couple yards, like I don't know, 20 yards, and it seemed like it ricocheted off something and like it was spinning weird.
Mm-hmm.
And so after a long delay, like everyone was convinced they hit a wire. Like the Eagles players are pointing up all at the same time, so like obviously they're not gonna plan a reaction like that. It probably hit a wire, and the announcers are saying I think it hit a wire. They come out and the refs are like, we do not have conclusive evidence to see if it hit the wire. Like the play stands. Like. Something you've never really ever
Which is
seen.
so dumb. Like, so you're just gonna keep on playing if you couldn't get review. Like, and the other thing is when you were watching it, they didn't even show, like, they didn't have the camera angle for the longest time, and then finally they showed it at the end, and like, I mean, yeah, you can't really see anything, which is
right. I mean, that's
crazy.
why they couldn't call it back, right? They had to let the play stand because it's like, okay, yeah, we have circumstantial evidence that points towards the fact that maybe it hit the wire, but if we can't prove it. You can't call a play back because the entire Eagles bench is like it hit the wire, right? You can't,
because then you can plan that and just be like, okay, guys,
be like, okay,
at 3 minutes,
if we have a bad punt, I'm gonna flash you a signal, and then everyone needs to point up to the sky. Okay, we all need to do it at the same time though. So I understand why they didn't call it.
Yeah, that's just part of the madness of this game. You see a punt that you've really never seen before. You see a fourth string quarterback play and get hurt, so they bring in almost the running back. What a game!
Yeah. Additionally. The yardage chains broke.
It was a weird game.
It was such a wild game. I mean, it was a blowout of a game, but there were a lot of little things that were just absolutely wild in this game.
Both of these games.
Oh,
there was a lot of things that were you don't regularly see.
Yeah. So before we get into our next game, I would like to give a shout out to one of our sponsors, K&F Construction, our friends over there. K&F Construction has been serving the Northeast Ohio community for over 16 years, specializing in composite decks. K&F Construction takes the time and effort to provide the service and product that you deserve for your home. You can call K&F Construction today at 330-575-2465 for a free estimate. Again, that's 330-575-2465. You can also visit kfdex.com, which is linked in the description. K&F Construction. Let us build your dream backyard.
Yeah. So obviously, with this massive blowout, 31-7, Eagles are the NFC champions and going to the Super Bowl. One question that I have for you before we move on to this last game, the AFC Championship game, is do you think that the 49ers, with a fully healthy Brock Purdy the entire game, could have beat the Eagles, or at least made it closer than 31-7?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, hindsight's 2020. Nobody knows what's going to happen. It's like that Kanye thing, like, oh, I guess we'll never know, like,
Right.
But yeah, I mean, they definitely could have. He's undefeated as a starter. He played great with them all year. Obviously, it's better than Josh Johnson and running the ball all game. You're going to have a better chance. You're setting up your defense better because the Eagles had great field position a lot and they were on the field a lot more. So it definitely 100%. I don't know if they would have won. Obviously, we'll never know that, but they 100% would have made it a better game. I think this would have been a really good game had no injuries and none of that craziness happened.
I think that the 49ers may have won if Brock Purdy wasn't hurt.
Obviously, you picked them.
Yeah, I did. But I think that the big reason, I mean, you can look at the score and be like, well, come on. Even if the 49ers scored like 4 touchdowns, they still wouldn't have won this game, right? But I think that a big part of why the Eagles have 31 is because the 49ers defense was on the field so much. Right? I mean, the offense couldn't go anywhere, so every 3 plays, the defense is right back on. Mm-hmm. So I think that with a fully healthy Brock Purdy, which hopefully we'll get to see next year, assuming his elbow injury isn't significant and the 49ers end up rolling with him, it'll be super interesting to see how they fare next year, because they've made it to 3 NFC championship games in the last 4 years. So there's a high probability they do it again.
For sure. So yeah, so this was the NFC Championship game, and now we move on to the AFC Championship, which was right after, between... Oh!
Yeah, Debbie!
Yeah!
Get that off the screen, Debbie! Debbie!
We had to make sure that was up there for Austin.
No!
Because we had a little...
No! I have a problem.
It's
Fix it.
It's fixed.
Fix it.
We will get, obviously, to what that's all about. Oh, Austin's flipping tables now. But... yeah, there was a long debate and argument and fight last night between Austin, It was Austin versus me.
The world. Austin
Debbie.
versus the world.
Yeah, because you were being a biased AFC
I'm
North
not
hater.
being biased.
We'll get to it. We'll get to it.
We're gonna get to this.
Yeah, so this was the AFC Championship rematch of last year's AFC Championship.
Yes.
Obviously, Mahomes coming into this game, all the talk about his ankle and his high ankle sprain, which I can't believe he was playing through. Major props to him for playing. And Travis Kelce was a game time decision in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Ended up playing, which we kind of expected because it's Travis Kelce who's going to miss the AFC Championship, but that was something to monitor going in. But it didn't end up affecting him at all.
Yeah, it didn't. Honestly, like you could have told me that Travis Kelce was fully healthy in this game.
I didn't even know
I
it
would
was
have
hurt.
believed you.
Right.
The only reason I knew he was hurt is because I heard the reports before the game that he was game time decision, and it's like, okay, well, if he plays, he'll be 50%. No, he was 100% Travis Kelce. Did fine. So for this game, the Bengals got the ball first, and the Chiefs defense really did a lot better than I anticipated them to do.
Yeah.
Like on that Bengals first drive, they forced them to have to punt the ball away, and then the Chiefs come out, and you're like, all right, Patrick Mahomes, let's see what you got on this bum ankle. Turns out, like you said, the ankle didn't affect him that much. He was still running around the entire game. He was throwing on the run. He scrambled a couple times. Like, he looked perfectly fine. They must have done a really great job taping his ankle. So the Chiefs go down. They end up not being able to get the touchdown, but they end up getting a field goal, making sure that they get ahead first. And if you, my friends, want to get ahead, you need Prince Florists. Get ahead of the game by reserving your Valentine's Day flowers. Prince Florist in Canton is now accepting reservations for roses and custom bouquets, so you can be the hero when the big day arrives. Avoid the stress of last-minute shopping and make sure your special someone knows how much they mean to you. Place an order at princeflorist.com. That's PRINTZ florist.com.
Yeah. So, like you said, they go down, they score first, and then it was really for the first half of this game, it was kind of a defensive game.
Definitely.
We expected a major shootout, but it was like, what was the score at halftime? It was like
At halftime, it was 13-6
Yeah.
Chiefs.
Yeah, it was like a lot of defense, a lot of field goals. Like it wasn't a shootout like we were all expecting. But they go into it, and the Chiefs look like they're rolling. They have the momentum. They had their number all game. And I think a really big turning point in this game was Mahomes. I mean, it's not common, but it's not uncommon. I mean, you very rarely see it, but it does happen, even to the best, where Mahomes goes back to throw, and he goes to throw, and the ball completely slips out of his hand, and it's a fumble and picked up by the Bengals, and they got the ball back, end up going down and tying the game.
Yeah. You don't, like you said, you don't see it very often.
It's a very weird and funny play when it happens, but clearly,
Yeah,
I mean,
it happens
it does
even to the
happen.
best of them.
I mean, when it's cold out, it's harder to grip the ball.
Yeah.
So
It was, what did they say? It was like 26 degrees, but with the wind and everything, it felt like just 6, which is a super cold game to play in.
Mhm.
Yeah, this game was honestly overshadows the NFC Championship game because
this was a very good game
it was
to watch.
it was a very good game. It was very entertaining. 23-20, obviously very close. I really did believe we were going to get to see the first overtime game of the playoffs, get a rematch of overtime from last year's AFC Championship game, which obviously the Bengals came out on top of, but with the new rules this time where both teams get a chance with the ball, and it was going to be fantastic.
Yeah. Before we say anything, I mean, everyone talks about. I want to talk about unsung hero in this game who's not getting talked about. Everyone's talking about Mahomes, obviously. The refs, obviously. Like, I'm not.
Yeah, no, yeah.
People are talking about the refs and Mahomes and Joseph Osai. But shout out to Marquez Valdez-Scantling in this game. He signed there in the offseason, and people were saying that he has this connection with Mahomes, and he's going to step up and take that Tyreek Hill role. Obviously, he won't be Tyreek Hill. He'll take some of that role, and he'll be the guy. I really bought into that hype, and I drafted him in fantasy and regretted it all season long. But he really stepped up in this game. A lot of the Chiefs receivers were hurt and just played bad. But he completely stepped up. He had 6 receptions for 113 yards and a touchdown.
It's insane. That's an
He
insane
had an
number.
incredible game. I mean, against in the highest stakes, in all of every single one of those catches and yards helped them will their team to this win. I mean, they needed everything they got from him.
Yeah.
And he stepped it up.
I mean, think of a big name Chiefs receiver right now. Kadarius Toney,
Hurt.
Juju.
Yeah.
There's another guy, number 19.
That's Tony.
Is that Tony? Okay. So those are their big name receivers, and they're both hurt. Like, they got hurt in that game. And so, it's next man up. That's how it is. And Scantling really was the next man up in that scenario. He played very well. To have over 100 receiving yards on 6 receptions is ridiculous.
And he had the go-ahead touchdown late in the game. I mean, he played phenomenal, and I was happy for him because I have him in Dynasty. I'm like, hey, maybe he can kindle some of this fire, keep it going next season. But I was also like, dude, why couldn't you have done this like literally any week during the regular season? I could have used that, but whatever.
Yeah. So if you didn't watch the game, you probably have seen on social media that there is a lot of outrage towards the referees in this game.
When he says a lot, he means like a stupid amount. Like their NFL meme pages, a lot of them, they post similar things. Some of them use like the same templates almost after all the games. But literally, I've never seen so much things geared. Like it's just refs, Osai. Refs, Osai, Eli Apple, refs. Like, it's all the same thing because everyone's clowning. Like, you see people who don't even, like, always watch football. Debbie obviously has watched a lot more football this year than normal because of the podcast. Debbie posted, I don't know, like 4 or 5 things about the refs on his story. What are we calling Margaret over here?
New producer.
Yeah, new producer. Yeah, we'll talk about that at the end of the podcast. New producer Margaret over here posted something about the refs. Travis King, friend of the show, posted something on his story. I mean, everyone is flaming him. Rightfully so, I believe.
Rightfully so, yeah.
I believe not rightfully so.
Yeah, well, let's talk about that.
Before
Austin.
Okay. You get Austin's bias. Okay, but Austin's a little biased. Obviously, he's rooting against them. We all knew. He said going into the pick'ems, he's rooting for the Chiefs in this game. Who does he think is going to win?
Austin,
Hold on.
Okay.
I'll let you finish, but then you
We're going to bounce off each other.
Yeah, okay.
This is probably going to be a minute.
This is probably going to be.
This is definitely going to be.
This is going to be the most heated we get from the podcast ever.
So you're going to have. He said on the last. Go back and watch the pick'ems. He said, I think the Bengals are going to win this game. I'm rooting for the Chiefs. I would love to see the Bengals lose. Yeah. And you get me personally. I was rooting for the Bengals, but it doesn't affect me if the Chiefs win. Like, obviously, you don't want to see an AFC North rival get in. None of these teams are Panthers rivals at all. It doesn't really affect me too much. So I'm more of an unbiased opinion. All of social media and Instagram is more unbiased. I think, literally, like someone else, our youth leader, Harold Mansfield, who was on the show, he's a Browns fan, AFC North bias, and he's still saying that these were bad calls.
I don't think these were bad calls, and I would like it to be known that Debbie, who is on the side of the rigged refs, very big supporter of the Bengals in this game. His Be Real was even Go Bengals.
Yeah.
Kadin obviously was a supporter of the Bengals. He picked them. And
it doesn't affect me.
And if you go back and watch almost any of the episodes where we talk about the Bengals, Kadin says that he thinks the Bengals are one of the most fun teams and one of the easiest teams to root for in the AFC.
They are.
So it's not. There's still bias on the other side, guys. Hey, I do admit my bias that I don't like the Bengals. I don't think that the refs in this game were bad calls. I really don't.
Well, okay. We might have bias here. Hold on, Debbie. This is gonna get really bad, really quick.
We gotta go back here.
We don't take this too far, but
I'm done with the podcast.
No. But like, yes, we do both realize that we have a little bit bias, maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, but
so we can admit that. So now let's get into the calls.
Fans,
let's just get into the calls.
All NFL fans and all social media is talking about it. It's not like we're just pulling this out of nowhere and being like, oh, they screwed them here. No, everyone is saying it. Everyone knows it.
Okay, so let's just be clear. We heard Kadin's take. We heard Austin's take.
I mean, yeah, we're not done.
And I think also, if you look back at our other episodes, you can see that we sorry, adjust my mic here. That we have both agreed that the Chiefs are a very fun team to watch. You got Mahomes, you got all the great receivers, you got Andrew Reid, Andy Reid.
God,
Andy Reid. So we've all talked about them. We like the Chiefs. I like the Chiefs personally. I like the Bengals also. I do not have a claimed team. Like Kadin has the Panthers, Austin has the Browns. I don't really have a team that I'm like always rooting for in this instance. So I feel like I'm not completely biased, but I'm also not completely unbiased in that sense that I wasn't like diehard Bengals fan in the back here. So I mean, yeah, I just saw that when they did a redo on 3rd down and 9.
Right. We'll talk about
like that was crazy. And yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
The thing that I will. So last night I was fuming mad.
Oh, I know you were.
Okay, I was so mad. I didn't reply to some of Austin's texts because I was so mad.
It's not that deep. It's not even your team.
I know. But after thinking about it, I do think that I was kind of fighting on the side that the last push where the Bengals defender pushed Mahomes out of bounds, I did think now looking back on that was a good call.
Yeah, it was. No one was arguing that.
Yeah, we were at the gym this morning,
were the only one
and
arguing
the guys were talking about, I don't see why he did that, whatever. There's a whole, everyone's talking about it, right? But I do think
I would like to quickly note that those guys at the gym do have some of the worst football takes
that is so
ever.
True.
Like all these dudes are like
because when you push them out of bounds,
75 years old.
Right. He was going out of bounds.
He was going out of bounds anyways.
Well, yeah, I know.
I'm saying that these 75-year-old guys at the gym that don't actually work out, they have some of the worst football takes I've ever heard in my life. Okay, but that's besides the point.
Besides the point.
Introduce them to the podcast.
The refs, especially the head ref, I don't know what was going on with the clock. I don't know if he told them wrong the first time. I wish I should have taken notes on this, but I think the first time that he told them to play the play clock and the game clock when he was supposed to only say play the play clock. Pause the game clock until it was time or whatever. There was a whole mix-up there. I don't know whose fault that was, but that was huge, and that's why they restarted the 3rd and 9, and then the Chiefs still could not make it. The Bengals defense is also both defenses phenomenal, like during this game.
Yeah.
So
that call didn't end up mattering, but there's a lot of flame that like the referees are trying to like rig the game in that aspect.
I mean, I think the thing that is important is that they stopped the momentum. Like if you look at it, I was like, okay. The Bengals stopped the Chiefs again.
Okay, but that play didn't ultimately end up mattering. So I don't like the debate. I mean, obviously that is really controversial.
Yeah.
That play shouldn't really have, that whole thing shouldn't have gone down, and they kind of refused to comment on it after the game.
Right.
But
which makes it even look more suspicious. You're inviting the memes.
It didn't ultimately end up mattering, so I don't really want to spend too much time on it. We are a little bit crunched for time, and we have a lot more to cover. So we'll try to briefly. I mean, I don't want to take too much long on this, but yeah, I was talking about, I mean, you see the Tom Brady treatment and all these other players, when they get sacked or if they get hit hard, you can't put your full body weight on them or have them hit their head hit the ground.
Right.
Burrow was hit multiple times after he threw, and when he would get hit, he gets slammed to the ground, full body weight down on him.
Yes.
I didn't see that. I didn't see.
Well, you also told me that you were watching the game from the kitchen.
No, I was watching. I said that there were points where I was in the kitchen or on my phone.
Yeah.
But obviously. I think
you can admit though that there was times that a roughing the passer call could have been called. Like, let's just put that out there. Every game, there's at some point there's times when roughing the passers could have been called.
Right. And referees miss calls. Like, that's just the nature of the game. You miss calls on some teams.
Right.
You miss the same calls on the same team. Like, that's how it works.
How about this?
You miss
We
calls
all know that everybody has different opinions. Everyone's rooting for different teams. Everyone has different bias. No one's ever going to agree on it.
Yeah.
There's controversial calls. Obviously, we know that they're controversial because we're arguing about it right now. There's controversial calls. Go look them up yourself and formulate your own opinion.
Kadin the Peacemaker.
No, I say listen to my opinion. I think the refs did fine in this game. I hate the flame that the refs are getting for this because I think they called the game pretty fair.
I do admit there is something to say about playing. I'm a big proponent. Oh man, I'm talking like Kadin. I'm a big proponent of playing the game like the refs are the game and playing the calls like they are not humans, that it's just the algorithm kind of like spitting out what happened and that they can't fault, which they can. It's just when you see that much that happened and mistakes that happened, and like the one time the ref was just rambling on for a full minute, like he didn't even know what he was calling, and then he just turned off his microphone and it was like, what did you just call? Like there was it was a lot of mess ups, but
it's all right.
It's okay.
It's okay. I mean, it
happened,
but yeah, one of the storylines of this game is at the end of the game, Mahomes was running and he made a great play with his sprained ankle, and he's running out of bounds, and then he's already out of bounds, and then Joseph Asai, defensive end for the Bengals, makes the most idiotic play of the season, sells them their season. Ultimately sold them their season. He's already out of bounds. He pushes them, and then he goes to the ground and he like holds his leg. And I'm like, dog, we know you're not hurt. Like, you're trying to be like, oh crap, sympathy. Like, I know I messed up, but yeah, you just sold your team the season. 15-yard penalty. They go kick the field goal. And the field goal was very short.
It was a 45-yard field goal. No, don't say it's very short because you guys missed a 45-yard.
No. I mean, it was short. Like, it was barely in.
It was 8 feet from the cross.
Right. No, it was a 45-yard field goal.
It barely hit the bottom of the net.
Like, it's questionable as if they were back those 15 yards.
If they're back those 15 yards, if they're back maybe 5-7 yards, that's missed.
That's all would have been barely good from 50.
Yeah.
So, that call doesn't happen. I don't think the Chiefs kick the field goal.
I don't think so either, yeah.
I mean, they have 8 seconds left, so I see maybe running like a quick out route for like 10, 15 yards, really hoping to get it. But ultimately, if he doesn't make that push and draw that unnecessary roughness penalty, the Chiefs might not score, and we would have seen overtime.
Yeah. One more thing about this game, I would like to like pat myself on the back and toot my own horn a little bit. I did say, if we remember last week on the podcast, that Eli Apple and the Bengals was always saying Burrowhead. The Kansas City or the Cincinnati governor being
mayor,
right? Cincinnati mayor being a complete idiot and buffoon, talking about the whole needs to see if he's actually his parent or his father or whatever.
Yeah.
Those are going to come back. Sure, that might not be the reason they lose. That might not be bulletin board material. It might be, but it's still idiotic to say that before you even play. The worst, the best that comes out of that situation is, okay, it was funny. Like, there's so much more risk of that coming back, and you just look like an idiot and you get clowned now. Obviously, you probably saw it after the game. They were talking, and then Kelsey, he had a lot of moments after the game. Kelsey runs up while Mahomes is talking, and he yells, and he goes like, oh, Burrowhead, my explicit. And, like, obviously, everyone's talking about that. They asked Mahomes about it after the game. I mean, obviously, everyone knew about it. Comes back to bite them. And then Kelsey takes the mic again and says, hey, I got some words for the Cincinnati mayor. Yeah. I don't know exactly what he said, but he pretty much ripped on him, which rightfully so. Yeah. He said, shut your mouth, you're jumping from the rock or whatever. But, I mean, rightfully so. Stay in what you talk about. Don't set yourself up to look like an idiot. He should have kept his mouth shut, and I said it on the podcast, and I'm kind of glad I said that because I sound smart now.
Yeah. I remember I was probably, I don't know, early middle school, like 6th grade, something like that. And I had a friend, and he was like always like super confident, and he'd always be like, oh, you couldn't make, it's like some like trick shot with the basketball. He's like, watch this, right? And then you miss. And I'd be like, it'd be a lot smarter if you were like, oh, here, let me try. And then once you make it, taunt, but don't taunt first. Yeah. Because then you look like an idiot when you don't make it.
And that's exactly what the whole Cincinnati, the governor, the mayor, and all their players, and whatever. But congrats to the Chiefs, not taking anything away from the Chiefs. Right. It should be a great Super Bowl now. I think Debbie has a graphic for it, correct? Yeah. Okay, so hey, like we said, we have no idea how to pick. We both won 1 for 1. I am not surprised in the slightest.
No, but I would have liked my chances a lot better for going 2 for 2 if Brock Purdy was healthy. But
I'd like mine if the refs played a fair game.
But whatever. That's the nature of the game, man. That's the nature of sports. That's how it is.
So we got the Super Bowl now on February 12th. We got the Chiefs and the Eagles. This is a lot of things. This is, first of all, the Super Bowl. The biggest game of the year.
Biggest game of the year.
This is also the Andy Reid Bowl.
Yes.
Andy Reid coached the Eagles and won the Eagles a Super Bowl. I think.
No.
He didn't win them a Super Bowl?
I don't believe so, no.
He coached the Eagles. And obviously now he coaches the Chiefs, and he's won the Chiefs Super Bowl. And now they're playing first coach to coach in the Super Bowl against his former team. That's an ESPN type stat right there, but it is a stat.
It is also...
It is also the Kelsey Bowl, which is a lot more entertaining than the Reid Bowl. Travis Kelsey, by far the best tight end in the league, and Jason Kelsey, who's a very, very good center, one of the best centers in the league. Obviously, he plays for the Eagles, and Travis, I can't say Kelsey. Obviously, Travis Kelsey is on the Chiefs, and Jason Kelsey's on the Eagles. But again, and they have a podcast like us. Maybe we should get them on.
We should.
Their podcast is really fun. I see clips of it all the time. I don't watch it, but I see clips, and I'm sure the trash talk between the two of them is going to be insane for the next 2 weeks. So
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. This should be a really good Super Bowl. These are obviously two very high-powered offenses. I don't think the Chiefs have as good a defense as the Eagles, but on the highest stage, it doesn't really matter. It just matters the plays that you make.
Yeah,
and not
Mahomes
necessarily where your defense is
more than
ranked.
Mahomes will be 2 weeks off to get that ankle
Yep.
more closer to 100%.
They should have all
Yeah.
their receivers back because 2 weeks is more
Hey,
than enough time.
It doesn't
to get
matter.
healthy.
They got Valdez Scantling. They're
That's
good.
all that matters, right, Caden?
Yeah, man.
So yeah,
Little bit of news
a
now
little
since
bit.
there was only 2 games, but we did talk. There was a lot to talk about, and we really that was a good episode. So it came out today, the 2023 salary cap. They announce every year like what the official number will be, and this year was a record number, like the highest salary cap, which every year gets higher. So it's not really breaking news that it's higher, but it's $243.8 million. So teams now know exactly how far above or below the salary cap they are. Teams will have to cut players and restructure contracts to get everything normal.
salary cap is one of those things that no one really thinks about as like an NFL fan
Until free agency
free
comes.
agency comes and you're like, oh crap, we have no money and also we have no players. How is this possible?
Seriously, like the Panthers have some players. Like you see a team like the Saints. Every single year, they're like minus 75 million under the cap. And I'm like, first of all, how do they get back to zero every season? And yet they still have these players. Like, it doesn't make sense. I don't hear that they're restructuring all these guys and they're not out here cutting Michael Thomas every season. So how are they getting to zero? And how do they still manage to every year get back down in that hole? It makes no sense. Like last season, negative 75 million cap. And I'm like, oh, well, they're signing nobody and they're cutting everybody. They cut nobody and they signed Tyrann Mathieu. And I'm like, how does that mathematically work? Salary cap's a myth.
I changed my mind. Salary cap does not actually exist. It's just a number the NFL throws out there to make everyone feel better that they're not blowing $800 billion a year, when in reality they are.
Yeah. But is there, I think you talked about a tweet. You can talk about
Yeah. JJ Watt posted a very...
He retired.
He retired. And then he posted a tweet of him in a Texans uniform from his days.
That was not Photoshop.
It was not Photoshop.
Because he obviously played for the Texans.
Right. So he did play for the Texans. So he posted a tweet of him in a Texans uniform. And so, there is now some speculation.
Well, no. Do you know why he posted that?
Is that him with Mecca Ryan?
Yeah. Because D'Amico Ryans is the front runner. He sounds like he's going to get the Texans job.
Right. It sounds like he's going to get the Texans head coaching job.
Yeah. And so he was a player for the Texans with JJ Watt.
Yeah.
And so it's a picture of him and D'Amico Ryans, both in Texans jerseys on the sideline, like smiling or laughing. So personally, I don't think much of it at all. I think it's just like supporting your teammate and friend going back to your team. I can't believe people overreact and speculate like that, but that's how the media goes.
Yeah. So obviously we have to talk about it because we have to feed into that
Because we are the media.
Because we are the media. We create the news. Let's see. Is there anything else you want to talk about here, Caden, for the biggest game of the year? See, the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, the Pro Bowl is this week. Tune in to ESPN. It's going to be a big one. Flag football. No
one's watching that.
We do have news. Margaret.
Wait, before that.
Oh, I was
Before
gonna
that,
talk about Margaret.
I think we'll release kind of what's the schedule for our uploads for the next 2 weeks, because we're not sure exactly what it's going to look like. I think we're going to do at least one episode just covering the Pro Bowl. We have to. Not because we want to, because we have to.
No, we want to.
Yes.
Yes. we want to do this.
There's news. I mean, it's not like a competitive. It's just a
might
fun
just be
thing
shorter.
to watch. My dad clowns me for watching the Pro Bowl, but like if I'm at home,
I like watching the skills competitions.
The skills competition is so fun. And if I'm just sitting at home, well, I'm just gonna sit on my phone. No, I'll turn on the Pro Bowl. Why am I getting clowned for this? Like, go in another room, But yeah, I mean,
So
it's fun.
we'll let
See
you
all
guys
the best
know what's
players. So yeah,
happening,
we'll
but-
post it on the Instagram. Make sure you're following us there.
Yeah.
At KA_football.
Yep.
But one more thing, Margaret, we have now. We're all busy. It is hard to find times to do this every week. Austin's busy. I'm busy. Debbie is not busy at all.
No, Debbie sits around.
Debbie literally doesn't leave this room. Debbie's just like, so there's
Debbie
nothing.
sits in here and like, there's nothing else to do, and then he like kicks rocks around the room.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, there's nothing to do.
Right. No, but Debbie is also insanely busy. Sue Ellen is very busy. Sue Ellen has not been here in like years. No, actually, that's not true. Sue Ellen was
Someone
here
was here just the other week.
She was here there. Yeah,
we all know this
she was here.
is a dude. He's been on the podcast.
She was here last week.
And now, so we're like, we need like another brain.
We need a backup. We need a third string producer.
We need a Brock Purdy.
Yeah. That's
To go 7-0, carry the podcast.
Hey, we need someone who's smart.
Right.
And so what fits this mold of super smart with computers and tech, but knowing completely nothing about football? Margaret. Insert Margaret the dude.
Yeah.
So now we have Debbie, Sue Ellen, and Margaret.
It's
I'm
great.
definitely not going to remember the name as Margaret. So next week I'm going to be like, and you're going to remind me Margaret. But
Yeah,
it's-
I got you.
yeah. I'm sure we'll have Margaret on an episode in the offseason.
We'll
but-
have to, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure because
We
now
should do a
that-
producer episode.
Like, if you think Debbie knows nothing about football,
Just wait till
you
you
have
see
reached.
Margaret.
This is new heights, but it's good. It's good. He's fun.
So
we'll have to do a trivia episode with the producers.
We will have to do a
that'll be a
trivia
very
episode.
good episode.
Yeah.
that'll be
The
good.
new setup, it'll be great.
So really quick before we sign off here, last night we were watching the Chiefs Bengals game, and
Oh, you and Margaret.
Margaret and I
Yeah.
were watching the game.
Yeah.
and Margaret goes, I'm a really big Bengals supporter, because Margaret just wanted to clown on me because I don't like the Bengals. And I was like, yeah, something like that. Name me 4 players on the Bengals. We couldn't do it. He's like, why does that matter? It doesn't matter. I'm like, it definitely matters. Give me some player names. They couldn't even give me a name. Okay. Then
Bro,
as
maybe the
soon-
guy who has the ball. Whatever.
as soon as the game ended, Margaret asked me, goes, so who are the Chiefs going to be playing in the Super Bowl? I go, the Eagles. He goes, I'm a really big Eagles supporter. And immediately changes just because he knows that I'll probably be supporting the Chiefs.
Is that who you're rooting for in the Super Bowl?
I think so. I'm not sure because I don't really like. I do really like the Chiefs, but I really like the Eagles this year
I do.
too, because I had Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown in fantasy this year, so I've kind of been supporting them all year. So I think what I'm really rooting for is
A good game.
I'm rooting for a good game.
tie.
I'm not gonna come at this as a fan of either of these teams. I'm gonna come at it as a football fan, and I want a good game.
Yeah, I am completely in agreement with that. I'd love to see the Eagles win. I like Jalen Hurts. I like their team. Their coach is fun, but Mahomes is the most fun player to watch in the league. And I love Valdez Scantling, and I hope he has a great game and continues it in the next fantasy season. That'd be awesome.
Would be great.
So yeah, is that about all you got?
I think so. Yeah.
All right. Thank you for listening to this episode of the K&A Football Podcast. Again, make sure you're following our Instagram at KA_football so you know when we will post and be live for our next episode. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for watching this episode of K&A Football. You can listen to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and we're also active on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube Shorts.
If you made it this far in the video, thank you. You're a real one. We'll see you next time.